everybody. I'm in such a good mood. I hope you guys are in a good mood too. It is an epic morning, right? Hello, good afternoon, good evening. Hello to all our international viewers. I'm so excited. I'm like so excited. As I think everybody knows by now, Tim Walz is the VP pick for the Harris ticket. I'm just like thrilled. And we're going to talk about all the reasons why this is such a good pick and all the reasons why this makes such a difference in terms of what we're going to be able to accomplish now and in the future, why it's so important for the ticket, why it's so important for America. I could not be happier. All right. First things first, welcome to Resistance Live. It is the 6th of August, 2024. I was about to say 2018. Welcome. I now have my desk. We're in the new office setup for our visually challenged viewers. I am a dirty blonde, pink-skinned, green-eyed woman. Today, I am wearing a lilac tank top with a black jacket over top. I'm in front of a chair and a plant and our family mantra, which some of you got to hear about on Progressive Coffee Hour. And we have a brand new troll bell because my regular troll bell got broken in the move. So I'm super excited. Okay. Let's talk all about Tim Walz because I have to say that, given that I freely admitted this, I didn't know very much about him until 2 weeks ago. I honestly could not be happier. It was really funny. Somebody on the Patreon feed this morning said to me, I am not going to listen to you anymore because you said it was going to be Pete. And I have to say that for everybody who watched yesterday, you all know that while Pete was my first choice, I really said that I thought it was going to be Tim Walz, and I thought Tim Walz was a great choice, and he was my second choice, and I thought he'd be fantastic. So I am not at all disappointed, not in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I think that this is a really remarkable choice. So for those who don't know about Tim Walz, let's just go through like a little bit of his background. He's a former school teacher, former football coach. He served in the National Guard for 24 years. He's a veteran, okay? He is someone who sponsored in the 1990s the high school gay straight alliance at the high school where he was a teacher. He's got what we all have come to refer to on threads in recent days, big dad energy, meaning like he's the guy who shows up and wants to take care of you. He's the guy who shows up and wants to make sure that you're safe. He's on record saying that his view of public service is to get yourself elected and then burn every bridge to change the world for the better. I want that kind of energy in a VP slot. I frankly think it brings an enormous amount of good energy to the ticket. The other thing I will say this morning, those of you who follow me on threads who know all about this, right? Know what I said this morning about this is I had a moment. So one of my followers on threads posted a photograph of Tim Walz with the statement, "Come home, America." And I burst into tears. Why? Because it was a photograph that made me realize how much we need this kind of positive masculine energy, the kind of positive masculine energy that is full of joy, that is about caretaking, that is about public service, that is about showing up with a smile and still being a hard ass. I'm going to remind you all this whole weird thing that we've been doing in relation to the Trump campaign started with a speech by Tim Walz. He's the first one who said it. He is a take no prisoners kind of debater, but from a very down to earth, real world guy kind of perspective. I think he's fantastic. And I have to say that while I was a little bit surprised over the weekend to see David Hogg endorse him, because I expected that David Hogg was going to endorse Buttigieg, to hear the reasons why David Hogg was all in for Tim Walz was further proof of why this is a good pick. Okay, so I just want to tell you all a little bit about his record as a governor, all right? Because this is going to be really important in the coming weeks. He's passed free breakfast and lunch for all school kids in Minnesota. You all know how I feel about this. Gavin Newsom did it last year in California when we were living there. It's huge. No, big dad energy does not mean something else. You were thinking of the Pete Davidson version of this, my friend, okay? That's why it's a joke, okay? He passed free breakfast and lunch for all school kids. He provided tuition-free college to working class students in Minnesota. He is in favor, and by the way, is like ready on board to do this for universal background checks for gun ownership, even though he is a gun owner himself. Okay, this clearly explains why David Hogg and a lot of the March for Our Lives kids are in favor of Tim Walz. He's passed additional LGBTQ protections for LGBTQ Minnesotans. He is in favor of legalized weed, The dude is a great progressive candidate for all of us. All right. Now, I'm going to say one thing about this because this is already happening this morning. Tim Cotton is out there right now calling Tim Walz a left-wing extremist. Why? Because the George Floyd uprising happened during Tim Walz's tenure as governor. But I'm going to tell you something really important about this. If you missed this coverage this morning on Morning Joe, you need to go back and find it. Tim Walz is responsible for the prosecution of the police officers who murdered George Floyd. Okay. He is the guy who moved the prosecution away from the local law enforcement and local district attorney into the hands of the attorney general so that those men who murdered George Floyd ended up in prison. Okay. He is all in for civil rights. He has deep connections in the civil rights community in Minneapolis. Okay. I mean, this is like, there are all sorts of good reasons why we should be in his court. Now, they are going to paint him as somehow being in favor of Black Lives Matter. Like, who isn't? You have to be like an irrational person, not be in favor of Black Lives Matter. Like, it's like the least controversial position ever taken, right? That Black Lives matter or should matter in this country, right? But they're going to paint him as somebody who's like in favor of burning down cities and all this other nonsense. This is why I'm giving you his record, because when you face that down from your friends and your family members and your relatives, I hope not, when you face it down online, you need to be able to say, is this what makes a left-wing extremist? Someone who wants to feed kids breakfast and lunch at school? Someone who believes in tuition-free college? Someone who's in favor of legalizing weed? That makes him a left-wing extremist? Are you joking? Are you joking? So it's incredibly important at this point that we see this for what it is. They're going to call him a left-wing extremist because they're going to try to draw connections between like an uprising that was entirely justified thanks to police violence and a lack of accountability, right? Rather than tying him to this incredible record that he has as a governor. All right. There's one other bit of good news that goes along with this morning, which I want everyone to be aware of, which is that when Tim Walz is elected, the vice president of the United States, Minnesota will get its first ever Indigenous woman governor. So this is a history-making ticket on two fronts. Minnesota has never had an Indigenous woman governor. The lieutenant governor is an Indigenous woman. This is also going to be one for the record books. It could not be better, okay? It could not be better. And I'm just going to say, for everybody who's disappointed that it's not Pete, I am just going to predict this right now. You can save this and come back to it. Pete Buttigieg is going to have an incredibly significant role in the Harris-Walz administration. Mark my words. He is being saved for bigger things, okay? So just like hold tight to that, okay? This is a great moment. We should ride the joy all the way. And I have to say that I don't think you could see Democrats any more fired up than we are this morning. This is a working class guy. This is a guy who's a teacher. He's a veteran. He's from the Midwest. He believes in progressive values. He shows up for his constituents. He flipped a red seat to blue when he served in the House of Representatives. He was elected from a rural Minnesota county that goes far red. Like, this is a great pick. It's a great pick. And Pete Buttigieg is going to have his moment. My bet is he's going to be our first out gay POTUS, but we shall see. I am very, very, very happy. And I think that every constituency inside the Democratic Party this morning is very, very, very happy. Even Nancy Pelosi is happy. And that should tell you something. Nancy Pelosi called him a centrist this morning. This is the great thing about Tim Walz. He has something for everyone. For everyone. All right. So I'm like super, super excited. Who am I trolling? When am I going to get to use my troll bell? Somebody show me. I'm so excited. All right. Anyhow, I'm super stoked about this. Okay. We have to talk about a little bit more this morning about election interference because once again, let me say one other thing about Tim Walz, by the way, because I just want to make one other thing clear before I move on to the total panic that Maddow instilled for the second time in a week last night. Okay. The other thing to remember here is that Tim Walz is going to get to debate JD Vance. Sorry. I'm excited. I think this is pretty obvious, but I'm like laughing my ass off about this. This is going to be a fun ride. Okay. Because if you haven't seen the whole press conference where Tim Walz first used the word weird, like you should go watch it. You should go watch it, because that is the energy that he is going to bring to a debate with JD Vance. I said it this morning on Threads. I'm going to stand by it. Tim Walz is going to make JD Vance wish he never ran for office. The debate is going to be an absolute fiasco for JD Vance. Because this is the other thing. The good news about this big dad energy is that it's big dad energy that is really like salt of the earth. Like, take no prisoners, speak no BS. And I think it's going to be a riot. And I think it's going to be deadly to the Vance-Trump campaign. I'm like, I don't know, man. There's a reason why they don't want to debate. There's a reason why they don't want to show up. It's going to be worse now than it ever was before. And I got to tell you also that, oh, here we go. I'm going to get to use my troll bell. Whoops. I zoomed in. Let me get this guy. Here we go. Bye-bye. I'm so glad my troll bell is back, you guys. It's so much fun to use it. Okay. I am at this point going to just make a couple of other predictions in relation to this. I think that we're going to see Trump continue to actively melt down even worse than before. We're also going to see JD Vance try to do this, like, I'm a normal boy kind of thing that we've been seeing in the last couple of weeks, because now he's really up against the guy who called him weird. And you know, I don't know. Their messaging is falling apart on that side of the fence. The Dems are in line. It's very good. I think it's all going to be fantastic. So just like, buckle up. Like, this is really good. And I have, by the way, I have to say, a number of folks that I follow this morning on Threads, including Soraya McDonald, said it's so much fun to watch them actually try to win, right? It's so much fun to watch the Democrats not be afraid anymore of pissing someone off or alienating a certain voting bloc. It is so much fun to watch them actually stand for something and get in line and fight for it. Like, it's great. It's great. And we should all be like riding the joy train. Like I said this morning, get happy and get ready to do the work. Because, by the way, things just got easier. Things just got better. We have a vice presidential candidate who stands for like very traditional Democratic values, and I'm psyched. I'm really psyched. Okay, let's move on to the election interference thing. You all know that I gave you all a piece of my mind on what Maddow was doing about election interference last week, when she did this again last week on the Monday broadcast. Yes, there are things going on at local boards of elections. Yes, you should get involved. As Mark Elias said last night, thank God he actually said something that we could all do last night instead of just like playing into this fear mongering. You should get involved in your local elections processes, okay? You should volunteer to be a poll monitor, to be an election worker. You should find out who's running your local boards of elections. You should show up to boards of elections meetings, particularly if you live in a red or a swing state. It's very important that you advocate for the protection of actual voting rights and the counting of actual ballots, okay? All of that is legitimately true. But I'm just going to say something that I said again last night, because once again, if you didn't watch the broadcast last week, you should go watch it. But once again, the Patreon feed was full this morning of people like running around like the sky was falling thanks to Rachel Maddow's broadcast. I was explicit last week that I was really disappointed in the way in which it was fear-mongering. I was disappointed last night also. I don't think it serves democracy to be spending a lot of time right now fear-mongering about elections being thrown out and votes not being counted. I'm just going to tell you something. The way to handle this is to say, this is what might be coming. This is what could be coming. But there are solutions available, and those solutions are legal and they are mobilization based, okay? Like, we do not need to be panicked about all of this, all right? What we need to do is do the work, okay? Because the other thing that I'm just going to say to all of you, like, truly, and I said this morning, and I'm going to say it again here. We have to act at all times like we are down by 10 points. I'm going to let you in on a little secret this morning. There is an averaged poll out this morning that shows for the first time ever Kamala Harris is up everywhere. It's only by 0.2%, okay? But it's showing that we're ahead, okay? We cannot get complacent. Do you know why? Because this has to be a landslide. In order to prevent the attempts that we're going to see to throw out votes and not count ballots and claim that things were misdated and, all the nonsense that Trump is going to do, we are going to have to win by a landslide. And that is going to require all of us to do good work, okay? All of us to do good work. And that means that rather than getting scared, rather than being like afraid, okay, rather than having a moment of panic thanks to corporate cable news that like makes its profits these days on fear mongering and outrage bait, we have to like stay focused. Because this is the other thing. Like, if you do the work, if you mobilize for not just like Harris Walz, but also for like the House of Representatives and the Senate and your state elections, which by the way matter a lot to whether or not your votes are going to be counted, and your local elections, and you do all the work that you can, whatever that means for you, okay? Because I'm just going to say this. Everybody should assume right now that we're all in the same boat, okay? If all that you are able to do, you're a single working mom with 2 jobs and you're raising kids and all you can do is like write a couple of postcards or talk to your neighbors, don't feel guilty about it, okay? Because there's going to be lots of the rest of us who are going to be out here 6 days a week between now and November. There's a lot of the rest of us who are going to be donating every single weekend to getting out the vote. Okay. So we all just have to do what we can. We all just have to do what's within our bandwidth. And then we've got to make sure that we keep it up, like literally like pedal to the metal straight through November 5th. Okay. If we do that and we do the things that Mark Elias was recommending last night, first of all, trust that the lawyers are going to do their job because they are. Okay. Mark's shop is like ready to go. Also make sure that you are participating in your Board of Elections processes. Right? If you have the capacity, volunteer to be a poll monitor, a poll worker, an election official. Okay. If we all do this, this is a done deal. Like, it's going to be President Harris and Vice President Walz. I have no doubt about it, but we cannot become complacent. We cannot, even if, because I'm going to remind you all, I know we all have 2016 PTSD, but Hillary Clinton was predicted on the night of that election to win by 91%. Okay, of the polling. And we all know what happened, right? So we cannot at any moment assume that this election is safe. And if we turn out the vote in numbers so huge that they cannot be disputed, we won't have a damn thing to worry about. Okay, so this is it. We do the work. That's the answer. As with everything else, participatory democracy only works when you work it. Like, we all have a role to play in this. And that's one reason why I've been saying, like, all along, all year, that it is not enough to just vote this year. You've got to do more. You've got to step outside your comfort zone. You've got to volunteer. You've got to phone bank, text bank, door knock, deep canvas, whatever you can do within your own bandwidth, within your own ability. Okay. You got to do it this year. No negotiation, no talking yourself out of it. You got to do it. Okay. It really matters. It really matters. Okay. And all that said, I'm going to say one other thing here. Okay. If corporate media, including people that we have relied on historically as being great journalists, are scaring the living out of you right now, don't watch them. Don't watch them, because it doesn't serve democracy. Okay. Fear causes people to freeze. And if you are terrified, rather than riding all the hope and joy of this ticket into 2025, you should not be watching it. Like, seriously. I mean, I kind of reached that conclusion last night, and this is like most of what I do for a living. It is really, really important to make sure that you are like on target here with managing your own emotional response, because all of us need the bandwidth to get this work done. We're going to desperately need it between now and November. Like, please, really critical that if you are finding yourself constantly in a state of fear, that you do not engage with the person, the source, the television channel that is inducing you to fear on a daily basis. There's plenty of other places to get your news and motivation. All right. So really critical, just really, really critical. And I hate to say it, but I have to say this is 2 weeks in a row where I've been like, what are you doing? And I don't like that, right? I don't like it. Terror is not where it's at. The other thing I will just say here is that nothing motivates people to vote like a positive vision for the future, like hope, right? Like, an incredible, groundbreaking, history-making ticket. Like, let's do that. Let's do that. All right. Final thoughts for today. I just, I got to say just like a couple of things about like this moment, okay? Because it feels really important to make sure that we all acknowledge what we're living through, okay? This is a moment where if all goes according to plan, we're going to look back on the last 2.5 weeks as the window of time that changed the course of American history, okay? 2.5 weeks ago, Joe Biden was still the nominee, right? 2.5 weeks ago, Kamala Harris was just the vice president on that ticket, right? 2.5 weeks ago, we were all operating from a place of fear because the polling didn't look very good and we were worried about Biden's electability, okay? Where we are now is so dramatically different from where we were, thank you, Joe Biden, that I don't want anybody to miss it. Okay. I don't want anybody, like I have this moment, y'all know, like, just put my executive coaching versus my like lawyer hat on for a minute and just say this. Okay. One of the problems with positive developments when we've all lived through trauma is that sometimes we don't believe they're real or we don't acknowledge them while they're happening. Like we are incredibly blessed right now. We are incredibly fortunate to have this ticket and to be riding now with a party that is entirely in array, in line to defeat fascism in America, like once and for all in our lifetime. I'm not saying it's not going to happen again in 100 years, but I'm telling you right now, like this is it. And we have the best possible opportunity to do that right now. How lucky are we to be able to be present for this, to watch it happen, to watch what is likely now, if we all do the work, to be a historic defeat of an incredibly dangerous candidate at an incredibly critical moment in America's trajectory. Like, how lucky are we to be alive right now? Not to just like quote Lin-Manuel Miranda, but it's true. It's true. And so I just want everyone to take a moment and to take a deep breath and like honestly sit with the gratitude of it, because it's been an incredibly hard time, right? Like we've had 9 years of this man breathing down our necks, like resulting in like hundreds of thousands of American deaths thanks to the COVID pandemic. We have an enormous amount of trauma from what he did to this country. Like you can just go through the laundry list of it, right? Roe versus Wade, the Muslim ban, all of his like tax breaks for the rich, right? The things that he took away from everyday Americans through legislation, like the anti-union sentiment, the family separation policy at the border, all the xenophobia and hate, build that wall, the bilking of the government, the corruption, the theft through his properties, and potentially his bribery by Egypt. Like there's so many things, right? And that's on top of everything that they want to do to this country through Project 2025 and Agenda 47. Like seriously, we have a moment to end this with the best possible ticket that we could have imagined at a historic moment. Okay. I just want everybody to acknowledge it. And I'm not saying it's easy living through times like this, because we all know it sure as hell is not. Okay. But at the same time, it's really important to look at what is happening right now through the lens of history. This is a moment that will change the course of America forever if we do the work. And I, for one, am incredibly grateful, like more grateful than I ever thought I would be, to be living through this moment in time and to be able to participate in the process that will end all of this harm and all of this hate and finally set America on a trajectory of actually creating real equality and living into the promise of what it was supposed to be to begin with. It's a moment of incredible hope. And it's so wise at this point, so wise to just like take a moment to acknowledge it, like truly to take a moment to acknowledge it. All right. And to be grateful. And I'm just going to say this again to everybody who's fighting about Pete in the comments, like cut it out. Pete's going to have an incredible role in this administration. He may be the Secretary of State. Okay. Like hold tight, just hold tight and be grateful. Cause like, it's not over. And I'm also just going to say one other thing. Harris gets elected, we're going to have the most diverse cabinet imaginable. I can't wait. I can't wait. So let's take a breath and be really good about it and feel really good about it and do the work. All right. That's it for today, my friends. You're all awesome. I see 3,577 of you live here. Please subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to share this broadcast with your friends and anybody who may need it. Any groups you're in, any organizations you're working with, please share the broadcast far and wide, because like that's what I really care about the most, is making sure that like this vibe gets out there. Not the one of like outrage, not the one of like clickbait farming, not the one even from some people on our side of the fence. It's like, here's the latest thing you need to know about the awful thing that Donald Trump said. No. We need to be putting more positive energy out there right now to keep everybody going. And I am grateful to all of you. Please consider supporting this broadcast as a paid subscriber over on patreon.com, where you can ask me questions every morning for the broadcast, and I will answer them live or in writing. And I love you guys. You're awesome. Thank you for being here. I will catch you all here tomorrow, regular time. Thanks for your patience with me. Thanks for your attention. Thanks for those of you who have been here for the last 7.5 years, since we were just a tiny little broadcast on Facebook Live. I'm grateful to you. And I will catch you all here live tomorrow. All right. Take care, everybody. Be happy today. Take a moment to celebrate. Like, this is really, really, really good. Okay. I'll see you soon. Bye.